Hi everybody, I'm Alison Kent of The Home Kitchen, a website with recipes, tips on entertaining, a curated shop of artisan crafted wares, and a hub for all things kitchen design. And today we're back in our series with SwallowTail, Chef Robin of SwallowTail. And we're doing a 4-part series on foraging, urban foraging. And so we did winter, and you can check that back out on Instagram TV. And they will all be up on Instagram TV, or they're on the YouTube channel, Alison Kent, The Home Kitchen. And so we're talking today about spring foraging, but maybe we'll get Robin to also recap on how her winter went with her foraging. Just try and get her in again. SwallowTail Tours. You can find her on Instagram, SwallowTail Tours. And on the internet, I think it's swallowtail.ca or .com. I can ask her when she comes on. And I have been doing some foraging too, getting ready. So we're gonna see, let's see, invite. Da, 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 da. Usually that happens a lot faster, but we'll see if we got her in. Telling people to follow you. I also have been doing some spring foraging. So we'll see what Chef Robin has to say about some of my finds. Some of them might be poisonous, so hopefully she tells us soon if they're poisonous, or if I found some good finds in my yard. Hey guys, just getting Chef Robin in for a chat on foraging. Let's see. I don't know why it's not connecting, but we'll get her. Hey. I didn't think that I had a lot in my own backyard, but it turns out I actually have quite a few things to look for in my own backyard. So we'll get to talk about those today. And I thought it was just all stuff that I had planted, but none of this were things I planted. And hopefully most of it's edible. And I also made a Forsythia vodka syrup for cocktails. I can think of people that are interested in cocktails. So hopefully that, I haven't tried it yet, but it looks like it's pretty good. Let's see, try one more time. We were just chatting like a minute ago, so she shouldn't be far. SwallowTail Online. I knew you'd be, Leanne. SwallowTail Online has online foraging education, so you can take a look at things that grow out on the beaches, Leanne, and out in the forest and the sea and everything else, and in I'm in the suburbs, urban, so things that are growing nearby. And she also does private tours, and so I'm really excited for her private tours coming up. Let's just try Chef Robin. Excited for her tours coming up because she's doing private tours. Here we go. Even on Galliano, so things like sea foraging and stuff on Galliano, which I'm super excited for. So hoping to take a few days out soon when things open up and go out there and check out some of her private tours. And as we get ready, and then we'll do a summer foraging chat down the road in 3 months. So May, June, July, August. In August, we'll be doing a summer foraging one. So this is the spring one. This was early spring. So the Forsythia plant was one that came out really, really early on. And it was one of the first things to bloom in the yard. And I've looked at that plant my whole life and thought it was just so horrid and ugly because I'm just not a big fan of the color yellow. Turns out okay in here. And in the end, it was perfect for this. My friend Alison Brown, who's Wild Folklore Apothecary here on Instagram, and she has a new cookbook just out, and it's all flower-infused cocktails. And this was one of her recipes in the book that's coming out very soon. It's launching soon, but she snuck me a recipe. So I'm excited to start using that and cooking with that. And let's see if we can get her in here to talk about it. So yeah, hopefully find some more things that are actually just in our backyards and just in our urban kind of situation here to do foraging. I was just talking about my Forsythia vodka syrup.
Beautiful golden
The
liquid.
book's not quite out yet for my friend Alison, but when it does come out, she gave me a recipe ahead of time to start using this with. So I'm excited about that. This is Chef Robin. We have her in, and this is spring foraging.
Hello.
But you said that these rose hips, any rose bush, and this is more fall or winter forage, right?
It's fall. Yeah, for sure.
Fall.
I mean, winter too, as long as you're finding them and they're not too rotty or, yeah.
Yeah, this is old. This is like,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
So
I have 3 rose bushes and they're massive. They're up past the top of my house. So they're probably almost 30 feet high now. So we need to learn how to prune them right back down. But they, yep, tons of these at the end of the year. And I never knew what they were. So now I do.
in fall, or did you do
I
any?
never have.
Oh, you haven't yet. Okay,
I
cool.
didn't know what they did or what they were for. So I have 3 big bushes. They're trees now. They're like rose trees instead of rose bushes. But because they're so massive. But now I'll be figuring out in the fall what to do with these.
Cool. Yeah.
When we do our fall foraging, Robin.
Yeah. I mean, actually coming out of winter, I'm definitely focusing more on seafoods. But I was walking in Jericho Park the other day, and all the Nootka rose is out, all of our native rose, right? And so on top of the hips themselves that you harvest in fall, the petals. So I know you smelled your rose and you were like, oh, that's not too strong or whatever, right? Yeah.
No,
like how does it smell?
not super strong. No, these are just starting in the garden right now.
Wow.
This is one of the first 3.
They're beautiful. They're absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, as far as harvesting the petals, you'd harvest them only if they're really, really strong smelling. So and the Nootka rose that I'm finding out there is like going off. Like it is so strong. The smell of the rose there is just gorgeous.
Is that a smaller wild rose or is it quite a big full rose?
No, it's a single petal, sort of, not multiple tiers, right? Usually pinkish. And you harvest those petals, and if they're strong enough smelling, then you dry them, and then I'd use them in Persian style recipes, like salted yogurt with rose petals. Obviously, you can use them in sweet treatments or simple syrups and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as like flowers, it's one of my favorites to use in savory treatments. And rice, adding it to a rice pilaf or whatever is beautiful.
You wouldn't automatically assume flour for savory.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, seriously, if you look into Persian cooking, they use rose all the time, and it's such a gorgeous, like rosemary actually has almost a floral, note to it in some ways. That strong sort of almost sweet but savory. And then the other one, so with spring, is flowering currant. That's just finishing right now. But that's another one that you can use sweet or savory. Like I love to stuff chicken skin with it, even though it is quite like floral, obviously being a flower, but it's more like sagey and flowery,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not super sweet. What was your best find? Let's back up for a second. What was some of your best finds when you were doing the winter foraging? Because we kind of went to, like, what was February? It was kind of the end of the winter foraging, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Last.
Definitely for seafood, like that's when I love to eat my oysters and my clams, and that, that's when we should be eating seafood. Definitely.
Oh, you had me craving oysters for weeks after our chat. Everywhere I went, I'm like, I gotta have oysters. Because then all I could think of was that picture in my mind of like the really cold water and the freshness of the oysters and everything else. And that was just so vivid in my mind after our last forage chat that was just all I was craving for probably 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was eating tons of that then for sure. And I have been harvesting urchin right now, but back in, February, January, that would have been a really beautiful thing to harvest. All your seaweeds, your roots, so burdock. I just did a sea foraging tour for a private group, and I made a chowder and included like a braised burdock root in it. So it's got that carroty, it's like a carrot, right? But more nutty. But that's a root that you would be harvesting around the February time. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the sea urchins, you said, were like winter into spring. Are they ending soon, or they go for quite a while? Or oh, I think we lost you. You might be frozen. But I want to come for those sea urchins, so I hope we'll get you back. Got to figure that one out.
I'm not
there you are.
sure.
I was asking about the sea urchins, if they were, how long did their season go for?
Yeah, I mean, urchins you can harvest all year round.
Oh, okay.
But it's the same sort of thing as a similar thing to the oysters in that the colder the water, the less muddy it is from the river runoff that comes, you know, it's coming in summer and stuff like that. The cleaner the taste is going to be. So any of your, you know, crab as well. It's like that's the cleanest time to eat them, and also the time that they're most filled out into their shell. So you're going to get the most meat out of a crab in winter.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm excited to check out I'm excited for my son to come and check out the urchin. I don't know, that water looked pretty cold, but I've been watching them on your Instagram and your stories and stuff of you guys going in for those sea urchins, and it looks like they are just everywhere. Like are they big breeders? They're just like really prolific, or?
Yep. They're really prolific, and they don't have a lot of predators because we killed off the sea otters. So that was one of their number one predators, and because they never really have come back to the inside sort of Gulf Island coast that's where I'm harvesting the urchins. Right. Like sea lions will eat them, so we do have the sea lions that come by and eat them. But other than that, they just deforest the kelp, right? So they're a really sustainable one for us to try to use, and
because they're a bit invasive anyways. So
yeah, like they're native, but they're prolific basically.
And you were making looked amazing in uni butter.
Yes, that is like, you know, it's better than caviar. It's just, you know, and it has so many different uses. Like just on toast, I was like, that's again for that sea foraging private tour. I made the chowder, but then I brought bread along, and then you just put the uni butter on the bread, and it's like imagine like sort of like anchovy paste has some of the similar qualities in that it's got a lot of umami. Right. So it's like rich and tastes like the sea, and it's just kind of, you know, humans get a natural craving for umami, I think. It's sort of
in this house.
Yeah.
You mentioned also the seaweed. Is seaweed year-round kind of foraging, or is that specific, like you said, to when the water's cleaner, or are they not really affected by what's happening?
I would say all year. Yeah, you can harvest seaweed all year round. There's better times to harvest depending on the species, but they're not like, you know, a bivalve, so they're not going to be, you know, affected by red tide, for example. But yeah, you know, and you can rinse them, sort of thing. So that's a nice thing about them. Whereas like crabs and stuff like that, they're sort of, you know, they're stewing in those muddy sort of river waters, right? So yeah, seaweed is, I would say, all year round for harvest.
And what do you usually dry your seaweed out? Do you dehydrate it or dry it out, or?
I like to roast because it sort of caramelizes it a little bit more. You get a sort of deeper flavor profile, and a nice crispiness. It's also easier than air drying because, you know, you forget about it out there, and then it goes overnight, and then it's wet in the morning again. I've done that.
Well, I have a dehydrator, but sometimes the dehydrator just isn't the same as like maybe roasting something out or drying it out in the sun, or like doing other things with it, or even just out at the end of the fire pit and you're done with the fire for the night. So just let it dry out until morning or something like that. It just sounds like it might have a different kind of flavor profile, like you said, but it would also just dry it out differently and maybe in a better way that, you know, makes it last longer.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think roasting or like fire drying or anything like that, it tastes better. Yeah, for seaweed.
Apparently I missed months of opportunity because we had no kitchen forever, and we should have been out in the backyard roasting and fire pitting everything, but it was just too cold. I was like, no, I don't want to go out there. It's just too cold. Well, I've also signed up for, and I've been taking your online foraging class, because you have online foraging classes, and I'm loving it. And I thought, well, especially in my little yard here, everything I ate was something I had planted. And I thought, well, everything else is just a weed, or even like flowers. I couldn't be bothered with flowers for a long time because I couldn't eat them. What was the point of them? But now I grow them to put on the table. These ones are still there, but you can eat them all. And so this is some of the things I found in my yard just even this morning, and going through your classes, not realizing that you can just add things like, I'm sure against my sweater you can see stuff. Things like clovers just to your salads like you would a microgreen.
Totally. Yep.
Or I don't know about these. So yeah, I just picked things I saw, but they're like,
what's that one? Is that a pansy?
it looks like a little pansy. It's just growing wild in the yard. It's purple with some yellow.
Pansies are edible. But and also I think you had buttercup there, right?
We did. I had a buttercup, and we found out that this is not an eating one.
Exactly.
What? Come back.
Yeah, so I mean, there's tons of stuff in your backyard. So buttercup tends to give people rashes, so that's not an edible. But, you know, things like dandelion, of course, dandelion blossoms aren't bitter. So people that are, you know, don't like bitter, try some dandelion blossom.
The yellow flowers are not bitter?
Not bitter at all. No.
I don't know what that is.
That's a geranium, so not edible either.
Not edible. Okay.
No.
Don't put this one in the salad.
No, don't put that one in the salad. But like mine
are okay in the salad?
Yeah, the petals. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Cute. Because one thing that's always lacking, and I think we've talked about it before, is even down at, like if I'm down at Grand Island or farmers markets, they're food markets, and then there's flowers being sold at the food markets, obviously to put on your table, but nobody's ever selling edible flowers.
Yeah. Well,
so I mean, they're hard to find. Just, I don't know, these are tiny and cute little, very small little weed somethings.
Chickweed, maybe. And actually with those, if you want to, so anyone that takes my classes like yourself, you can take some really good photos and send me them. So underside of leaf, top of leaf, same with that pansy. Just take me some photos, send me them, and then I can do 100% identification.
Before we poison ourselves.
Exactly. Safety first.
One that I knew was a weed in my yard, but we've kept it like, we cut it back a lot because it grows like crazy.
Oh, lemon balm.
The lemon balm. And for a long time, all I ever did was rip it up a little bit and put it in our water, or like our drinking water, with some actual lemon and some lemon balm, and that was always in our water. But in your online course, you also had some recipes to cook with it and add it to your breads, and I mean, you could just rip it up and add it to your salad just like that.
Yep. Yeah, and actually pesto. I don't know if I include that in the online course, but pesto is a great use.
This would make a good pesto. Yeah,
totally. That sort of lemony, herbaceous sort of note is really, really nice with it.
Okay, now I'm going to wish I hadn't cut it back so much. Okay.
It's prolific. And then that one...
We're not sure what this one is yet, but we're going to identify it later.
Yep. It may be a lady fern. If it is a lady fern, ferns are kind of cool as far as spring, because their fiddleheads are what you harvest at this time of year. And they're fairly easy to identify. One of my favorites is bracken fern. So that's a traditional sort of food in Japan and Korea, Asia in general, and people eat them a lot there. The key with ferns is that you have to cook them, because they're carcinogenic if you do not. So definitely boil them, and it's the fiddlehead you eat, not the actual leaf.
So if this was not a poisonous one, you could cook it. Could you do like a chlorophyll puree kind of thing with this kind, like get the green out of it and then do a puree out of it? It's cooked. And
I mean, you would have to, so basically you boil water, you take the fiddleheads, you throw them in, you cook them for about 10 minutes, you discard the water, make sure you never, eat it or drink that water. So there's a disposal process in the carcinogenic component is water soluble. So it'll go into the water, then you check the water, then I'll throw the fiddleheads in an ice bath to just stop the cooking. And you throw that water out as well. But they're good. They're like artichoke tasting.
Got it. And then we hadn't identified this guy yet, but it had a lot of fresh shoots. And I saw in your class that you were identifying a lot of, like, was it fir trees and stuff like that? So we're going to figure out later what this one is, but these are just the very top, like,
tips,
new shoots of it.
Yeah.
The regular leaves are quite hard and tough, like almost like a rosemary kind of texture, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so like with conifer tips, there's fir, spruce, pine, and western hemlock are the edible ones, whereas the yew tree is very poisonous. So I kind of encourage
Make
people
sure this isn't a yew tree.
to, yeah, that's my caveat. Because it loves to be, it's shorter, it's sort of shrubby, right?
Yeah.
If it has a red berry, have you ever seen a red berry on that bush in your back? No? Okay, because that's a yew tree thing. But yeah, my favorite is Sitka spruce. So those tips are super tasty, and they're out right now. So if you take a look around, you can use Picture This as a great app for just like, it identifies 80% of what's out there. Yeah, you just want to make sure you're for sure before you decide to eat something, which is why you should take my class.
Which is why I just wrote down Picture This app, because I think we mentioned that before and I keep forgetting to download it. So I'm going to make sure I download that. Yeah, the class is good because you want to not only identify a few things that you can feel safe with, like something like this guy, if we make sure we got him correctly, it's pretty easy to identify. You're not going to go too wrong with that. Like it has a certain structure and color. It's hard to misidentify. And then hopefully some of the non-edible ones are also really easy to identify.
Yeah.
And then you should be okay to like do quite a bit of foraging, like even easy things like in the fall, early fall, the blackberries. It's pretty hard to know if it's not to know if it's a blackberry or not. Like you obviously know right away. So there's a lot of foraging you can do that's pretty simple.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, that's the thing with all of our classes is I really try to, cover the ones that don't have poisonous lookalikes, etc. Right? Yeah, that are easy for beginners, but they might not know about, and they might not know how to cook them then, or how to treat.
Right.
Yeah. Like for example, I want to show off. I'm sort of holding my battery up just in case, but okay. I want to show off.
Show and tell.
Yeah, totally. So this is Sicily. It looks a bit like a fern, right? It's very furry.
Yeah.
And soft, and it's a beautiful plant, and it comes up with a white flower. So you can see this one's sort of going to seed at this point.
Right.
And these little pods that you pick off of them are edible, and they taste like sweet licorice. They're like great, like breath freshener. It's like a mint, right? Forest mint. And yeah, so you'll find these growing in like shady areas near farmlands frequently in, Agassiz, going out to the, lower mainland and the valley, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're also pretty easy to plant in your yard. So, in a shady spot.
We're going to find out because I'm trying.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to get them for you.
We had them the first time when I was at cooking school at Northwest down on Main Street. And Glorious Organics had brought in boxes for everybody to use for a salad. We're doing a plating kind of class and whatever, and they brought in this box. And that was the one thing in the box. I was just like, this is amazing. I want to figure out how I can use this in more dishes. And like you said, yeah, just the little pods were so delicious and tasty, but still like sweet and light. And I have never been able to find it since. They had a lot of different things like baby leeks and different stuff that you just don't find at the grocery store, right? So it's really exciting as a cook to find new things to cook with, especially. So if you have to grow it, you grow it. If you have to forage for it, you forage for it. And you just find it because there's so many amazing ingredients out there that
make everything taste so good. Like, and so neat, right?
Yep.
I mean, I think I talked about this in our last chat, but really like, trying to find the taste or the cuisine of British Columbia. It's like, that's in our, that's Sicily, and that's, I have a little bit of wintercress here that's, grows wild, or like all your mustard families that, grow where birch leaves, like this is our green tea, right? So it's like all these ingredients that are in our local environment are going to be, taste the best because you can pick them and they're the freshest. And also, yeah, it's just really fun to experiment with these as like pot herbs or whatever, right?
The birch leaves, would you make a tea just out of them fresh, or would you dry them first?
Fresh. No, I would definitely so this is my morning tea. I take 4 of these leaves. I put some hot water over them, and it's just like the aroma is like it's green and peppery and beautiful, and it just sort of wakes you up. It's And I've also been making birch leaf vinegar. So you just take like a handful of these leaves, put them in apple cider vinegar, and it makes this, again, sort of that bright green sort of taste to your vinegar, and then you make vinaigrette or whatever, right? But yeah, just sort of a simple you don't have to get over complicated with doing, because it's so cool and neat by itself, right? Yeah, you don't have to be an amazing chef.
Just use those few leaves. A little moth just flew out of the rose and now it's flying around my room.
Nature brought inside.
Nature is now in my house. Even for the roses that are not super floral, is that maybe because it's the beginning of the season, or?
No, some roses just aren't.
Some just aren't.
Yep. I mean, the bigger roses like that, you will find the nice thing about them is when they do fruit and create that rose hip later in fall sort of thing, it's big at least. Whereas the native Nootkas are like tiny, right? So you usually have to slit them open and like take the little hairs out. Whereas a big one, it's like more like an apple where you can like slice and sort of harvest it more easily. But yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah, the rose hips on these are pretty big, but now I'm definitely going to go and try and harvest them instead of just staring at them going, that looks like it could be useful. I have no idea.
Yeah. And it's a good, that's the thing in fall when we start reducing the amount of things that we can forage for. Hips are good, mushrooms and hips and roots, but yeah.
Mushrooms, you posted about morels today. Was that out of your yard?
No, that was actually, I have a friend that lives out in Langley, and it was on the side of her garden shed. And I have another friend as well that just put mulch down, garden mulch, and has like black morels coming up in, a plethora of them. It's just like some people just get lucky with having, the mulch just comes with the morels.
Like, dang, where can I find that? Well, I was thinking of actually, because we have kind of mostly kind of dark, and there's a spot in the front yard that's quite wet, quite moist, very dark in the northern side of the house, and I was thinking of even just planting the morel spores in there or something and just seeing what happens. If I just get,
I've done that times too. That's
any, or I don't get any. And
oh, sorry, what was that? You cut out.
Oh yeah, it's my husband trying to phone. Yeah, just seeing if I get any or don't get any, because I don't know. I feel like it's a bit of a crapshoot, but still, if I got them, that'd be really cool. And I've heard of other people. There was a lady who was doing, she's local, and I'll find her name, but she was doing a gardening thing, and she was talking about just having logs that you kind of infuse with spores, and that becomes like your mushroom logs in your yard, and they just do their thing. And
yeah, and that's for oyster mushrooms and shiitake. Whereas morel mushrooms are more finicky. They're really inconsistent in how and when they choose to come up. They tend to like, so the reason we're talking about morels right now is because it's a spring mushroom. So those ones are one of the few exciting ones that, there's about 5 spring mushrooms that can come up. There's prince mushrooms, there's oyster mushrooms, there's morels, chicken in the woods, shaggy manes. So these can all be found, but there's just less plethora out there than in fall. And morel mushrooms, commercial mushroom foragers tend to harvest them in burn sites. So after a forest fire has gone through, they'll go to those sites because morel mushrooms like disturbed areas. So that's why they're coming up in mulch or at the side of your garden path or in hard pack or on the sides of forest paths. They like to sort of like where humans have come in and like mussed things around. They come up there. But yeah, it's only recently that we've actually managed to figure out how to cultivate morels. So they can be cultivated. They take a lot, like many years to cultivate, but in orchards, they tend to, that's where people, like in China has a big market right now of cultivation in morels in their orchards. So a lot of our morels are coming from China right now instead of from the local wild pickers. But yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Well, I'll try and help out by growing my own.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Roll the dice.
It sounds like it's like the what I plant this year. In the front, I planted purple asparagus, but apparently that's like a 3-year journey to even really see your first one too. So gardening sometimes is very long term.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Like that really, that's just such a nice, it's a meditative process, right? Learn patience, right?
Well, my meditation the next few weeks is going to be start doing some really heavy weeding, and it's a bit late for that, so it's really overgrown. But then I realized that maybe half those weeds are actually edible, and maybe I just want to leave them there anyways. And who doesn't love edible weeds? I don't know. We'll have to see how we manage all the weeds. Yeah,
you have to send me more pictures of
what's especially now that this is a pesto now. That's all I see now is pesto. Totally. We're gonna let the lemon balm go crazy.
Don't do that. Oh my God.
Yes, I definitely have to have you over because you'll probably see all the things that I'm going to rip out and go, no, stop.
Not that one. That's like,
not that one. It gets crowded in the backyard. It's not a very big backyard. You know, Vancouver, it's like, doesn't take much to have your tiny backyard full of weeds and plants. But I'm loving my newfound Forsythia plant that's been here since before we moved in, and now I know what to use it for. The rose bushes have been here since before we moved in. That was something, the lady that was here, the whole yard had rose bushes, and I only kept 3. Because I was like, I need to have a garden that I can eat. I don't care about things I can't eat. But now they're things I can eat.
Yeah! Woo!
Yay! We were talking briefly, and I wasn't sure if you knew any local, we're in Vancouver here, local forage forward restaurants, since hopefully they're all opening back up soon.
Yes, hopefully, knock on wood. Burdock & Co. is great on Main Street, so they do lots of really beautiful food. Chef Andrea Carlson, we used to do lots of pop-up restaurants with her back in SwallowTail's, pop-up restaurant era. Days. Yeah, exactly. They'll come back. They're going to come back.
I hope so.
But yeah, so Andrea Carlson makes great food that way. There's Foraged restaurant, of course, downtown. That is a fully, that's what they focus on.
It's just named Forage.
It's named Forage. And then Pilgrim on Galliano Island. So that's, once we can travel across that ferry, that'll be
hopefully also soon, knock on more wood.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, there was like even Kisatanto, I've seen different green, a lot of the that's the thing is chefs now, it's not a new, it's not a new thing to use foraged, ingredients, and every restaurant is knowing that, these are our ingredients. Like let's have our menus reflect this, because they've
become like another supplier branch of the chains. Yeah. You've got your chicken guy, you've got your fish guy, you've got your vegetable guy, now you've got your forage guy, and you're just like, it's part of it. And some restaurants obviously take it much further than others, but I think most like really inventive restaurants have a forage person that is helping them find unique ingredients, and which is exciting.
Yeah, and actually, especially now, especially if some of your chefs have that knowledge, they can provide some ingredients, which reduces costs. So that's a good thing too.
True. If I were actually running a restaurant, there's all kinds of little things I would probably be planting here specifically for that.
Totally.
We'll see when my son starts getting more serious if he takes over my garden too. He's already taking over my kitchen. It's not even finished yet. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me again. I'm excited to go through some more of my garden and my yard. I'm excited to keep going through your online class. So the one I'm taking is, do you have more than one class online right now?
Yeah, I think we have 6. And we have, so the Foraging 101 is the beginner big course that you're taking.
I think that's the one I'm taking, yeah.
And then we're adding a spring foraging one specifically for now. So just because this is all the stuff that's coming up now. And then we have mushroom foraging, and we have we have a survival class as well. So like all the things like if there was a zombie apocalypse, what would you have to know about, basically?
Because we know that's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Because it feels like it's happened.
That's excellent. And it's swallowtail.com?
.ca.
.ca. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Swallowtail.ca.
Yeah, and
And also,
also,
obviously, follow all of your Instagram because your posts and your stories and everything are already so informative. Like just watching how you picked up the sea urchins and stuff in the little videos was really cool. And the information about the uni butter and all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's a fun world to kind of just start diving into. I know you've been doing it for a while, but it's fun just to, for newbies.
clear.
It's fun for newbies too.
Yeah, exactly.
So the
Yeah.
101 course that I signed up for, it's a little overview of everything, but then your other courses are going to be much deeper into that. Oh,
Yeah, so like more specific. Like actually, no, the Foraging 101 is pretty extensive. That's got the most modules in it. But definitely like the mushroom foraging course is like gonna have more mushrooms in it for sure.
more mushrooms.
More mushrooms.
Well, it might help me get my boys outdoors once in a while too.
Yeah, especially when fall comes. The rains gets you outside.
Well, thank you so much. And we're going to come back for summer foraging.
Cool.
3 months is what? May, June, July, August, right?
Yep. Berries and mushrooms. And actually the summer mushrooms are in the porcini. We'll be talking a lot about porcini then. August is porcini month.
Ooh, can't wait. Well, I encourage everybody who will be seeing this video to make sure you sign up for the classes. Follow Instagram SwallowTail Tours on Instagram and keep up with it. And hopefully we'll get some people more excited about foraging and their cooking at home.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
this.
you.